Well, I'm back on the bench with the Luger. Well, unfortunately, when I replaced the breech block, I thought I was done, but I wasn't. So the first round was a classic stovepipe. Boom, I staged it, of course, but there it was, just like that. And the second round stuck in the breech, and that pretty much ended my day because I couldn't get it out with my finger at the range, and I wasn't going to start figuring out what was wrong at the indoor range. You know, I just didn't want to work on a gun at the range. So anyway, brought it home, and this is what I found out. Well, clearly I was having an extraction issue, and I noticed that the extractor was kind of stuck up. Well, you know, when you're stuck up, you don't make many friends. So same thing with this extractor. So I thought, what the heck is going on? So clearly I had an extractor problem. So I purchased a new extractor after I figured out what was happening. So let's take this apart, put in the new extractor, and I'll show you what was wrong with this one. So the way I like to disassemble the gun is to lock the toggle back. So I'll just put in an empty magazine, and that'll lock the toggle back. That frees up the locking bolt here. And then you can just remove the trigger plate. Sometimes it doesn't come off that easy. And we remove the magazine, and this whole thing will just come off. Voila. Abracadabra. Next thing I like to do is relieve the toggle and remove the toggle pin. And that will free up the breech block and toggle assembly. Then we have a pin right here. Can you see black on black? There we go. That pin right there holds the ejector in. If you lift it up a little bit, that'll kind of relieve the tension, and you should be able to just push that pin right out. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. Just pushed it right out. Have the tensioning spring, and now the worn extractor. I'll show you what's wrong. So I have my new part here and a new spring, which is important. Always get springs if you can. Get new ones, you never know. This one may or may not be worn. You can have a spare. I don't know, just don't be cheap, I guess. Now let's see if we can figure this out here. So the first thing I noticed was this one side was highly polished compared to the other side. And this shelf right here, which keeps it in the breech block, is worn. You can see it's kind of flattened out a little bit. And see how it like widens up there to the right at the end. And what that would do is that would, when the claw came up, either to capture the cartridge or when it was being ejected out, it also moves then. It would jam up into the breech block. So that's kind of what's going on, is that one side is worn. So you want to look at the right side, and you want to see how it looks like it's been rubbed or filed or otherwise over time extracting rounds has kind of flattened itself out. Compare it to this one, and you'll see there's a lot more metal available, and so just that little bit of missing material is enough to prevent this gun from extracting. So let's put the new one in. So I'm going to bag the old one so I don't get it confused with the new one. Here's my new one and my new spring. So the one end appears to be a little bit tapered. It really isn't, but I'm going to set that in the breech block. Okay, first we're going to set the spring in the dimple here. Just like a little dimple right there. So this is where the pin is going to go, right in here. Now we'll set our extractor in place. And I'll need to compress that so the pin will go in. Well, the new spring is much more robust than the old spring. I've got to give it a little love tap here. Get this thing down there. There it goes. I felt it. Now I'm going to get it flush. There we go. We are installed. Now it's reassembly. Alright, there we have our breech block toggle assembly with our new extractor in place. There's the pin. As long as it's flush on both sides, see, it's a little bit short, so just flush it on one side. And I'll tell you what, this is much more robust than the other one. That spring is much tougher. I don't know if that had anything to do with it wearing, but it might have. Alright, now it's time for reassembly. Alright, we'll put the breech block and toggle assembly in place. And I can also set the pin if I can get everything lined up here. There we go. There we go. Now we'll just put the slide onto the frame. When it gets back here, I'll just drop it down so it catches the main spring. And what I like to do is lock it back again. That makes life a whole lot easier putting in the trigger plate and the bolt lock. Alright, now hopefully we have a Luger that I can have fun with at the range and shoot instead of repairing.